You just said you think they're killing too many children.
One is too many.
Fine, but it's not laughable, is it?
I think the definition of genocide requires intent to destroy a nation. And that is not what we're seeing. It's not what we've seen since day one. Do you think they're a terrorist organization?
I'm not going to sit here and give an obligatory... Do you think Israel's a terrorist organization,
Of course
Emily?
not.
Do you think Israel's a terrorist organization?
Not. Can you answer my question? Do you think Hamas is a terrorist organization?
I already did.
Abby, let me ask you the question which has made me infamous, famous, whatever you want to do. But do you condemn Hamas for what they did on October the 7th?
Piers just didn't ask that question, did he? Welcome back, everybody, and the gloves are off. Picture this: Abby, firebrand journalist, squaring off against Piers, condemn or die, Morgan and Emily. But what about Hamas in a verbal cage match over Israel's Gaza's offensive? The tension thicker than Piers' ego. After a 10-minute monologue, Abby just doesn't hold her ground. She bulldozes through the usual script, while Piers demands performative Hamas condemnations like a broken record, and Emily parrots IDF talking points with Olympic-level mental gymnastics. Abby drops truth grenades. 13,000 kids dead. Let's question the sources. October 7th, maybe don't ignore 75 years of occupation first. Cue Piers' face turning tomato red as she refuses to dance to his condemnation tango. Spoiler, Abby's the only one here not sipping that Kool-Aid. We're a year later after this clash, which isn't just history. It's a crystal ball showing how the same tired spin still justifies carnage till this day. Let's go.
On this, you've got the UN, you've got the ICJ, you've got increasingly the Americans, actually, trying to distance themselves from what's happening here, a growing sense that there is, if not full-blown genocide, a version of genocide happening here that meets quite a few criteria.
I mean, I think the definition of genocide requires intent to destroy a nation. And that is not what we're seeing. It's not what we've seen since day one. You have to remember the fact that this war was not started by Israel.
There was a cabinet minister who actually said he would be happy to drop a nuclear bomb on Gaza. That would have been the destruction.
Well, there are plenty of stupid comments from many Israeli politicians that I don't agree with.
But you said earlier that nobody on
But this is not the same thing. We did not start this war. This is not a war we wanted. It is not a war we started.
I've made that point very clear.
Israel does have the ability to commit genocide, and they are not. Why would we send 17,000 trucks of aid?
That's such an abuser, crazy thing to say. You have a gun to the head of Palestinians saying, we could commit genocide.
Hang on, don't all talk over each other. I want to finish my point about the cabinet member who said that was quite crystal clear in his genocidal intent. He thought it would be fine to drop a bomb, a nuclear bomb, on Gaza. You said earlier that nobody on the cabinet, nobody under Netanyahu from the start of his war, had ever espoused any genocidal thoughts or statements. He did that, guy.
I didn't say that no one in the government has said that. I said that the quotes she specifically mentioned are inaccurate.
Right, but what about the guy who got fired specifically for saying that about dropping a nuclear bomb? Right.
He should have been fired.
So do you accept there have been people with that mindset on the cabinet?
I think that there are people who have made all kinds of egregious statements on both sides. And I can give you a few examples of genocidal intent if you want from the other side, because that's really the only side that has proven genocidal intent.
We can come to that. We can come to that. But on that point, do you accept then that there are people in Israeli government, albeit he was fired for it, who have espoused genocidal sentiment? They have.
I don't know of anyone who is in the current Israeli government that would support any form of genocide.
Right.
Has anyone ever?
Of course,
people have on both sides.
5 pages.
Okay, Abby?
5 pages. Yeah.
5 pages of people, including social media posts of celebrities, including some of the people I know. That doesn't qualify as a legitimate intent to carry out a genocide. They included one from a comedian on there as well.
Strip.
Not to mention the fact that if we talk about the illegitimacy,
it's completely decimated. Every cultural aspect of life in Gaza has been completely obliterated to make it uninhabitable and unsurvivable for future generations there.
I mean, that is hard to...
Emily.
That is hard to argue. When you look at what's happened in northern Gaza in particular, it's pretty much been leveled.
I've been there. I've seen it with my own eyes.
Why would anyone expect regular Palestinians to be able to go back to homes that don't exist? Where are they going to go?
Well, many of them already have started going back, and they need to reconstruct Gaza the same way that they needed to reconstruct Gaza after 2021. But they're going to have to do so together with partners, whether it's Israel, the United States, or other Arab nations, in a post-Hamas reality. And if we're talking about the problem in Gaza and how the Palestinians are suffering, you cannot remove Hamas from this equation. Hamas is the group that has been persecuting the Palestinian people as well.
Well, that is true, Abby. I don't think there's any question. I don't think there's any question Hamas has been suppressing and oppressing its own people. I think that they have become increasingly vocal in their desire to cause maximum damage to Israel and to Jewish people. They've said since October the 7th through their official spokesman that they will do this again and again and again. That actually is genocidal rhetoric. If you're pledging to destroy a people in as many numbers as you can, as often as you can, that is a form of genocide, isn't it?
Look, what precipitated even the origin of Hamas? Hamas didn't just grow out of thin air. I mean, it was precipitated by
but what about my question, though?
Decades of brutal occupation and ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, but what about my question?
The question whether or not Hamas is genocidal as in its intent, I disagree. And Emily's saying, look, Hamas is reacting. They're an armed resistance group trying to fight for their liberation.
Abby, do you
I'm
think
not
Hamas
justifying
is a terrorist
anything that they've done. The United States also called Nelson Mandela and the ANC a terrorist organization. I think they're an armed resistance group trying to fight for the liberation of Palestine.
Do you think they're a
I'm not
terrorist
going to sit here and give an obligatory... Do you think Israel's a terrorist organization,
Of course
Emily?
not.
Do you think Israel's a terrorist
Of course
organization?
not.
Well,
can you answer my question? Do
yeah,
you
let's
think
agree to
Hamas is a
disagree.
terrorist organization?
I already did. Let me explain something to you.
Do you think that the acts committed on October 7th were legitimate? You think that gang rape, that mass
the acts that
rape,
Israel
sexual
did that
violence is a method of
precipitated
war? That's
October
legitimate?
Hang on. Look,
Do you think October 6th, 5th, 4th, 8th,
let me ask you the question which has made me infamous, famous, whatever you want to do. But do you condemn Hamas for what they did on October the 7th?
I'm not going to sit here and give an obligatory condemnation of Hamas.
It was a terrorist attack of appalling magnitude.
Of what I think.
Surely on pure humanity grounds.
Piers, listen.
You cannot watch the devastating murder of 1,200 people and not say it was a despicable terror act and condemn the people who did it.
Look, listen, I'm not going to give an obligatory condemnation of Hamas. What I will do is condemn the policies that precipitate violence. What I will do is condemn the roots of the violence, because inevitably you will have blowback when you deny millions of people basic human rights, when they're living under brutal medieval siege and barbaric military occupation, a fascist military occupation in the West Bank. Hamas doesn't govern the West Bank. Look at what Israel has done in the West Bank since October 7th.
You can't condemn Hamas for what they did on October the 7th.
This is not about Hamas.
Well, it's all about Hamas.
I condemn what will beget violence, inevitably.
What are you talking
I'm not
about?
going to sit here and condemn Hamas.
The entire war.
I'm sorry?
This entire war has been because of what Hamas did on October the 7th. You could go back in history.
Absolutely not.
You can go back in history
Piers.
and you can find arguments on both sides in the last 70 years. Right, I've had the arguments many times.
No, because
but you cannot dispute
what you're doing is...
What am I doing?
What you're doing is conflating and pretending like there are two equal sides. Oh, they've just been fighting for decades. There's always reasons on both sides to start the violence. No, that's not true. There's one side that's an occupying, colonizing force that continuously and violently expels and subjugates and brutalizes and terrorizes the other side. They are living under the boot of Israeli authorities, whether you're in Gaza and occupied completely militarily by the outside, or whether you're living under a fascist military dictatorship in the West Bank.
So do you, if
that
you believe,
is the root of the violence.
Okay,
that is the root of the violence. This is 75 years of ethnic cleansing and apartheid.
All right, I hear you. Let me ask you this. If you believe then that Hamas are a armed resistance, as you put it, and they have, presumably then you believe what they did on October the 7th was justified, do you?
I didn't say that. No, absolutely
well,
not.
Wouldn't that be
I'm not sitting here justifying anything.
Isn't the logical extension of your argument, if you believe they're an armed resistance and they are they are doing what they're doing because they are responding to acts of terror by another side, surely you would say that what they did was justified. Or if it's not justified, what is it? You either condemn it or you think it's justified. I don't think you can sit in the middle, can you?
Look, I don't need to sit here and give a condemnation of Hamas. I can explain why Hamas exists. I don't have to support what they did. I don't have to justify or rationalize it.
Yes, so silence in the face of rape as a
person who studies history
is complicity.
You can sit as a person who studies history. Emily, you're doing the exact same thing and you're projecting it on me. Okay, so do you condemn the actions of Israel for killing 13,000 children?
I don't accept that 13,000 children have been killed. That hasn't anything that's been verified.
This is the problem.
But it depends on the context of what's happening. Do I condemn certain actions of the state of Israel?
Palestinians their reality.
Do I think Israel is always right?
You're denying Palestinians their reality. This is why Palestinians have to show their dead kids on camera.
Do I think everything Israel has done, even in this war, is correct? No. There's no problem with saying that.
What has been wrong? What have they done?
I already said the same thing about
Abby.
Hamas.
Hang on, Abby.
I already said the same thing about Hamas.
Emily, tell me what Israel's done that's wrong in your eyes.
I think that should have been a priority from the beginning in order to plan a safe evacuation route before they implemented a military plan. I think that everything has been done too late.
Okay. Abby, what would you say Hamas have done wrong?
Again, I'm not going to sit up here. I don't even know really what happened.
You can't find anything.
How hard is it to condemn rape?
You can't find anything to say they did
all
that was
the
wrong?
lies that have been perpetrated. Look, Hamas killing civilians, I'm sure atrocities were committed on both sides on October 7th. I'm
on
sure
October 7th,
many
atrocities were
killed.
committed.
I don't know,
what atrocities did
how
Israel
many
commit on
civilians
October
were
7th?
killed by Israel. Emily, I can't even hear myself talk because you just can't stop
All right,
talking.
let Abby speak.
There's so many lies that were put out by Israeli authorities that it's really hard to parse through. Look, I mean, we don't know how many civilians were killed in the crossfire by Israeli soldiers enlisting the Hannibal Directive. So, look, the mass rape, the beheaded babies, the ripping the babies out of pregnant women's stomachs, I mean, all of these things are such egregious lies that I really just can't sit up here and condemn things that I don't even know what happened.
What about the atrocities which Hamas recorded and filmed themselves and then posted to the world to brazenly boast about what they were doing? What about that?
Look, nothing that Hamas did on October 7th compares to what Israel has done in response.
No, I'm asking you a direct question about the fact that they boasted about the mass murder they were committing.
You guys just make it all about October 7th, and that's what I'm saying. It all pales in comparison, Piers.
But if you can't condemn anything Hamas has done,
that happened, I already said.
You haven't condemned them.
Killing civilians is wrong.
So what
Killing
they did,
civilians is wrong.
So what Hamas did on October 7th was wrong.
What does that make what Israel has done?
Hang on, I'm trying to unpick your argument. So if it's wrong to kill civilians, were Hamas wrong to do what they did on October the 7th, given how many civilians were brutally murdered?
Are you doing the same thing to Emily? And if not,
just asking, do you think it was wrong?
Why are you not sitting her
do you
and
think
picking
it was
apart,
wrong?
Is it wrong to kill 13,000
Why
children?
can't you answer a simple question?
Is it wrong to kill 100? I already said it. Piers.
Was it wrong?
I'm not going to sit here. You're basically comparing Hamas to Israel.
No, I'm not comparing anything.
That's
You
really
said just now,
yes,
unless I'm mistaken, you just said to me that the killing of innocent civilians is wrong. I then asked you, fairly self-evidently, I think, the question, that in that case, given that Hamas showed us on tape them killing civilians, innocent civilians, on October the 7th, do you accept that was wrong? Yes or no?
You saw the tape?
Yeah, they showed us.
You saw the tape of them killing innocent civilians?
Yes, they literally broadcast it to the world. Yes, we all did.
And so do Israeli soldiers.
Fine,
in a
why can't you
fashion.
forget
it's
Israel
like
for
watching,
a moment?
It's like watching.
Forget Israel for a moment.
It's like watching Nazis.
If it's wrong to kill innocent civilians,
II
Abby,
on social media.
If it's wrong to kill innocent civilians, I'll ask you one more time. You haven't got to answer. Up to you. But viewers are watching this and they know you haven't answered. You think it's wrong to kill innocent civilians?
I already answered. I think it's wrong to kill innocent civilians.
So what Hamas did was wrong?
She's not going to answer.
Well, let her answer if she wants to. Last time, I'm going to ask it. So.
I don't. I already told you I'm not going to sit here and condemn what Hamas did.
Right.
I understand why. I don't have to agree with what Hamas did, right? To understand
that wasn't
why
my question.
things
I just
happen.
asked you whether
to
the mass
understand
murder
why
perpetrated on
violence
October the 7th was wrong.
To understand why there's blowback for horrific policies of apartheid and ethnic cleansing. There's obviously inevitably going to be
October the 7th was
blowback from
blowback.
those policies. Yes, absolutely, it was blowback.
Right, but was it wrong?
100%.
Was it wrong?
I'm not. Look, I don't know how much you want to just go around the mulberry bush like this.
I think it's a fairly straightforward question. I don't see how anyone can come on a show like this.
Israel is doing
how
is
can
wrong.
you take
Can
part
you
in a
ask
debate like
Emily
this and
that?
say
Is what Israel
killing
is
innocent
doing
civilians
to kill
is wrong,
13,000
but I'm not going to
civilians?
tell you what Hamas did on October the 7th was wrong? It makes no sense, Abby. No sense.
I'm not going to sit here and condemn Hamas. I'm not going to do the obligatory ritual.
I hear you.
Ritual that everyone is browbeaten into doing. I'm just not going to do it, Piers.
Honestly,
what Israel is doing right now is committing genocide.
I think your denial that what they did was a heinous act of terrorism is actually in its way as bad. I'm about to finish my sentence.
I said atrocities were committed.
Yeah.
And I think
they weren't
atrocities are wrong and killing innocent civilians are wrong.
So Hamas were wrong
again,
to do it.
You're browbeating me into trying to
I'm
say
just asking
Hamas
for a
was
straightforward
wrong.
answer.
This was a horrific terrorist attack. I already answered you.
I think your
Piers.
failure to say that Hamas did something wrong is terrible. I think Emily's failure to accept that 13,000 children have been killed is also terrible, right? I think that the denial going on both sides here, which I hear, is frankly appalling.
First of all, I'm not denying. I'm saying that we don't have the evidence yet of what the numbers are, and we don't know what the breakdown is.
How many do you think it is then?
We don't know yet.
Well, we
but
do,
you also
because
have to remember the fact that
the
what Israel is
as
targeting...
I said to you, Emily, the Palestinian Health Authority numbers historically have turned out to be proven to be pretty accurate.
The Palestinian Authority, the Ministry of Health has been instructed explicitly by Hamas not to report combatants.
That's not my point.
The numbers are not accurate and they cannot be trusted.
As I've just said to you, historically, if you go and check historically, the Palestinian Health Authority, run by Hamas, their numbers have turned out to be broadly accurate. That is why they are being treated now as reasonably accurate numbers. There can be no doubt from the footage we've seen from the hospitals of endless children, from the bomb sites, endless children being killed, that there are thousands of children being killed. To try and deny that, to try and...
I'm not denying that children are being killed. I'm not denying that there have been many casualties.
And you're trying to avoid...
we don't know the numbers yet. Right. And we cannot state definitively, especially if the source is Hamas, that 13,000 children have been killed.
You have actually no idea that 9,000 Hamas terrorists have been killed.
According to IDF intelligence, yeah, we do.
So you believe IDF intelligence, but you won't believe
a
the other
terrorist
side's
organization?
Numbers on victims.
Absolutely. I would believe the IDF over a US and UK designated terrorist organization that has been proven to lie about this.
Even if other independent agencies who corroborated the Palestinian Health Authority numbers, you still won't believe them.
What independent agencies? The United Nations?
Yeah.
This is not independent, as has been proven by this war itself.
And other
members of
agencies.
UNRWA are actually active terrorists. Some of them took part in the October 7th massacre.
Abby just atomized this debate like a whoopee cushion in a library. Beautiful, disruptive, and impossible to ignore. Let's cut through the noise. Piers stormed in like a toddler who discovered caffeine, shouting controversy like it's a personal trait, while Emily pirated between opinions like a ballet dancer on a grease trap. But Abby, she didn't debate. She orchestrated a masterclass. While Piers recycled tired rants louder than a malfunctioning smoke alarm, Abby dropped logical grenades with the precision of a chess grandmaster whose moonlight as a stand-up comic. Emily's neutral act? Please. She flip-flopped so hard, she could have powered a small island nation. If you're not standing Abby yet, what are you doing? Taxes? Smash that subscribe button, ring the bell, and join the rebellion against half-baked hot takes. Let's make Abby for president. Trend before Piers tries to trademark common sense. Sound off below. Is Abby the goat of gritty truth tellers? Or are you still clutching Piers' participation trophy? Emily stands you can answer too, if you ever make up your mind. Catch y'all on the next one.